Dad, my boyfriend broke my arm and promised that I'd be finished if I told anyone. This call came to me, a man who had served in the Navy for 20 years. She is my daughter. He is a hero only in his apartment with his friends. I called my old team. What we did next was no longer just revenge. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The knife moved through the tomato like I'd been doing this for 40 years instead of just making a sandwich. Probably because my hands were on autopilot while my brain replayed the evening class. That kid from Minnesota who finally nailed his buoyancy control after 3 tries. Small victories. The kind that used to keep me going when I'd defuse bombs for a living, and now they kept me going while teaching tourists how not to drown themselves. My phone lit up on the counter. Tessa's name. The mayo jar slipped from my other hand and hit the granite with a crack that should have broken it, but didn't. 11:47 at night. My daughter never called this late. Dad, Her voice came out strangled, wet, then sobbing, the kind that punches through your chest and grabs your heart with both fists. Tessa, honey, what's wrong? Where are you? The tomato rolled off the cutting board. I didn't chase it. My arm. Randall, he said he'd kill me if I... More crying. Something crashed in the background on her end. A door slamming, maybe. Where is he right now? My voice came out harder than I meant. Decades of keeping calm under pressure, staying controlled when there's a live explosive in your hands, and all of it evaporated in 2 seconds. His apartment. Partying with his friends like nothing. She dissolved into sobs again. The phone creaked in my grip, plastic protesting. Which hospital? I'm coming right now. No, I'm at Maria's. Dad, please don't. He said he'd give me his address. You know it. The one on Garnet I told you about. But Dad, stay at Maria's. Don't move. I'm handling this. I hung up before she could argue. Stood there in my kitchen with wet swim trunks still clinging to my legs and a towel around my shoulders, staring at the half-made sandwich like it belonged in someone else's life. The old dive class instructor making his late dinner. That guy was gone. Someone else stood in his kitchen now. My damp shirt hit the wall across the room when I ripped it off. 23 years diving for the Navy. Never dropped my regulator once. But Mayo defeats me. The laugh that came out sounded wrong, sharp enough to cut. Orville's number was still in my favorites after all these years. 2 rings. Orville, it's Dex. Dex, it's almost midnight. What? Get the guys. Pacific Beach, apartment 412. 30 minutes. Silence on the other end, but not the confused kind. The processing kind. Orville calculating, running scenarios, making decisions. We'd worked together long enough that he could read volumes in my voice. How many? All of them. On it, he hung up. No questions. That's what 2 decades in EOD together buys you. Trust that if someone calls at midnight asking for the team, it's not a drill. I pulled my phone away from my ear and stared at Tessa's contact photo on the screen. Her at Ocean Beach last summer, laughing at something. Her hair everywhere in the wind. My thumb hovered over the callback button, but I pocketed the phone instead. Walked to the fridge. Her picture there too, stuck under a magnet shaped like a scuba tank. Her college graduation, cap crooked on her head, my arm around her shoulders. My hand was shaking. Actually shaking. I pressed it flat against the fridge until the trembling stopped. When did everyone's phone numbers start needing magnifying glasses? I dug my reading glasses out of the drawer while pulling up my contacts, scrolling past names I hadn't thought about in years. Half these guys were probably in Florida by now, the other half dead. But I scrolled anyway, checking timestamps on the last messages, seeing who was still active. The water glass rattled when I set it down on the counter, ice cubes clinking against the sides. I'd poured it, but had no memory of doing it. Didn't drink it either. Just stood there watching the wall clock tick from 11:52 to 11:54 to 11:56. Tessa, call me back. Stay wherever you are. Don't move. I'm handling this. I left the voicemail even though I knew she wouldn't listen to it right away. Knew she was probably crying too hard to look at her phone. My other daughter, Ivy, was 3 time zones away in Boston. I typed out the text with fingers that wanted to punch through the screen instead. Ivy, emergency. Tessa hurt. Call me now. Her response came faster than expected. Dad, it's midnight here. What happened? Not on text, call. The phone rang immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Couldn't talk to Ivy yet. Couldn't explain without my voice breaking, or without saying something I couldn't take back. She'd call again in 5 minutes, then 10. Then she'd text Tessa and get no response and start panicking. But by then, I'd be at Randall's apartment doing what needed to be done. The old Navy roster was still in my desk drawer, water-stained and folded wrong, held together with rubber bands that had turned sticky with age. I flipped through pages, running my finger down names, stopping at the active ones. Brian still had the same number from 15 years ago. Eric had moved, but his cell was current. Orville would have already called them both. 11:59, 12:02, 12:08. I changed into dry clothes without thinking about it. Jeans, dark shirt, jacket, even though it was June. Checked my wallet for my ID out of habit, like I was going somewhere that required identification instead of somewhere that required something else entirely. 12:12, 12:15, 12:16. The photo on the fridge blurred when I looked at it again. Tessa's face smiling at me from 2 years ago, when everything was simpler and she hadn't met Randall yet, and her arm wasn't broken and she wasn't hiding at her friend's apartment, scared for her life. My phone buzzed. Ivy again. I silenced it. 12:17. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. Orville stood there in the yellow porch light, gray beard longer than I remembered, wearing his worn Navy cap that he'd owned since before I met him. 2 other men behind him in the darkness, all 3 of them dressed like they'd thrown on whatever was closest. All 3 of them with the same expression. Ready. Orville looked at my face and didn't ask questions, just nodded once. Brian's getting medical supplies. Eric's bringing the cameras. I stepped aside to let them in. I need to see him first. Before we do anything, I need to see the bastard who... My voice cracked. Just split right down the middle like bad wood. Orville's hand landed on my shoulder, heavy and steady, the same hand that had pulled me out of a flooding compartment in the Persian Gulf in '97. The canvas bag hit my coffee table with a thump that rattled the empty beer bottles I hadn't cleaned up from 2 nights ago. Cameras spilled out, notebooks, binoculars, the old tools from the old days when we did jobs that nobody talked about afterward. Eric was already opening his laptop before I could offer him a seat, his fingers moving across the keyboard with muscle memory older than some of the people we were about to surveil. The practiced routine of old teams kicking in, like we'd done this last week instead of last decade. He broke her arm. My voice sounded flat in my own ears, like I was reading a shopping list. Said he'd kill her if she told anyone. Silence. Eric and Brian exchanged one of those glances that held entire conversations. Orville stayed focused on me. Where is she now? Her friend's place, Marina District. And him? Garnet Avenue, apartment 412, partying. Eric's fingers paused on the keyboard for half a second. Cameras or direct? Cameras first. I need to know who's with him. Brian was already repacking the bag with more organization than I'd dumped it out with. Orville checked his watch, that old Timex he'd worn through 3 tours and refused to replace because it still kept perfect time. Van's out front. Orville headed for the door. Eric, you riding shotgun? We piled into Orville's van, the same beat-up Chevy he'd been driving since the Clinton administration. She coughed twice before the engine turned over. Orville patted the dashboard. She's vintage, like us. Eric snorted from the passenger seat. You mean barely functional? Exactly like us. The drive to Garnet Avenue took 10 minutes through streets that were too empty for a Thursday night. Or maybe it was already Friday morning and I'd lost track. My knee bounced the whole way. Couldn't stop it. Brian sat next to me in the back, not saying anything, but his presence was solid enough to remind me to breathe. We parked across the street from Randall's apartment building. 3 stories, California stucco, palm trees that needed trimming. Music thumped from a 3rd-floor window. EDM, or whatever they called it now. The bass line vibrated through the van's floorboards. 5 males, ages 25 to 40. Brian had the telephoto lens up already, adjusting the focus with mechanical clicks that sounded too loud in the silence we'd created. Wait, music's loud. EDM or something. Can you see him? My hand was on the van door handle before I realized it. 3rd from left, big guy, tank top. I leaned forward. Through the apartment window, backlit by harsh white lights, I could see them. 5 men, dancing, laughing, beer bottles in hand. And Randall, tall, muscular, arms covered in tattoos I'd seen twice before when Tessa brought him to dinner, moving to the music like this was just another Thursday night, like he hadn't twisted my daughter's arm until it snapped, like he hadn't threatened to kill her. Dex, breathe. I'm breathing. Your hand's on the door handle. I looked down. Orville was right. My fingers were already pulling it. Yeah. His hand caught my wrist, held firm. Not aggressive, just immovable. Not like this, Dex. You know better. Planning first. 20 years diffusing bombs. Now I'm watching this joker do the Macarena. Life's funny. The laugh came out bitter enough to taste. Got 3 vehicles. Eric had his laptop balanced on his knees, screen reflecting off his face in the dark. 2 registered to the apartment complex residence. 3rd one's interesting. Interesting how? Registered to an Eric Dusty, dishonorably discharged Marine, 2019. Orville shifted in the driver's seat. One of ours gone bad? Looks like it. I grabbed the binoculars from Brian and focused on the window. 5 men. I scanned their arms, their necks, looking for what I'd seen. There. The guy on the right, shorter than Randall, stocky build. Marine Corps tattoo on his forearm. Eagle, globe, and anchor. Same as half the guys I'd served with. Something felt wrong about that. A Marine drinking with the guy who'd just broken a woman's arm. A dishonorably discharged Marine. My phone buzzed. Text from Tessa. Dad, where are you? I typed back with thumbs that wanted to break the screen. Taking care of it. Stay with Maria. Brian's coming to get you soon. Please don't do anything stupid. I won't. Promise. I stared at those 3 words, deleted them, tried again. I'll be smart, I promise. Better, still a lie, but a better one. Brian checked his watch, then looked at me. No words needed. He'd been our medic for 2 decades. Knew when someone needed medical attention more than they needed witnesses. I'll take her to Scripps Mercy. ER's quiet this time of night. Tell her I know what to tell her. He paused at the van door, one hand on the handle. Dex, don't go in there without us. I won't. You're lying, but I appreciate the effort. He slipped out into the darkness. We watched him jog to his truck parked down the block, the same Ford he'd driven in Afghanistan, somehow still running. Orville repositioned the van for a better angle on the apartment. Eric pulled up social media profiles, his security company access code still working, even though he'd retired last month. This is technically illegal, he'd said earlier. Good thing I retired from the security business last month. Very legal now. The surveillance went on. 1 hour, 2. The party in the apartment never stopped. More people arrived. Someone ordered pizza. Randall danced with a blonde woman who wasn't Tessa, his hands on her waist in a way that made my jaw ache from clenching. Eric scribbled license plate numbers in a small notebook, the same leather-bound one he'd carried 20 years ago, pages yellowed and soft from use. Every car that pulled into the lot got logged. Every person who walked into that building got photographed. Marine Corps buddy left at 0200, Brian reported through the telephoto. Dusty probably, stumbled to his car, shouldn't be driving. Get his plate clear? Clear enough. Empty Red Bull cans accumulated in the van's cup holders as dawn approached. Eric worked his laptop. Orville watched the street. I watched Randall through the window, memorizing his face, his movements, the casual way he threw his head back laughing while my daughter was in an ER getting her arm x-rayed. The sky started changing from black to gray to that weird purple that happens right before sunrise in San Diego. Orville killed the van's dome light, even though it hadn't been on. Habit from operations where light discipline meant life or death. Got everything we need. Eric closed his laptop with a soft click. Full backgrounds, addresses, employment, social media. 3 of them have prior arrests. He slid a folder across to me. Manila. Old school. Inside were printed pages, photos, maps. Randall's face stared up from a DMV photo, younger, thinner, before he'd bulked up at whatever gym he managed. What now? I opened the folder, scanning pages. His full name, Randall James Ketchum, 28 years old. Manager at Powerhouse Fitness on Mission Bay Drive. 2 addresses, the apartment on Garnet and another in Oceanside, probably his parents'. DUI from 3 years ago. Unpaid parking tickets. Nothing that screamed violent criminal, but then again, guys like him never looked like what they were on paper. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That surprised me. They'd been trembling since Tessa's call, but now they were steady, rock steady, the kind of steady that came right before you made a decision you couldn't unmake. Now we dismantle his life, piece by piece. Orville started the engine. It caught on the first try this time. Where to first? My phone buzzed before I could answer. Text from Brian. Tessa at ER, radius fracture confirmed, clean break. Someone twisted her arm with force. I read it twice. Let each word sink in. Radius fracture, force, twisted. Looked up at the apartment window where Randall was probably sleeping off his party, dead to the world, peaceful as a child, while my daughter's arm was in a cast and her life was in pieces. The sun broke over the ocean, orange light flooding the van like a revelation, like the universe showing me exactly what needed to happen next. The coffee tasted like cardboard, but I kept pouring it anyway. Fourth cup down the sink because my hands shook too much to drink it. Fifth cup sitting on the counter getting cold while Eric spread papers across my kitchen table like he was dealing cards in Vegas. Okay, here's what I found. Randall Stewart, 34, manages Iron Paradise Gym on Ingram. We know all that. What you don't know, he's into online poker, deep, 47,000 deep. Orville whistled low from his spot by the window. That's not hobby money. Gets better. Eric Dusty, the Marine in the apartment, dishonorable discharge, narcotics. Now he's a dealer. Eric looked up from his laptop. Yeah, I've seen enough dealers to know one. I picked up my coffee cup, set it down without drinking. The clock on the microwave said 6:53. Felt like days since Tessa's call, not hours. Bank statements covered half the table. Social media screenshots. DMV records. Eric had pulled everything that existed in databases and probably some things that didn't. Guy posts gym selfies every 4 hours, he'd said earlier. Either he's dedicated to fitness or incredibly insecure. Instagram says insecure. My phone buzzed. Ivy again. I'd stopped counting her calls around 20. You need to talk to her, Orville said. After the hospital. Brian had texted at 6:30, bringing Tessa for follow-up appointment, 8:30. I had 2 hours to pretend I was holding it together. Then I had to actually hold it together in front of my daughter, who'd spent the night terrified in her friend's apartment with a broken arm and a threat hanging over her head like a sword. The drive to Scripps Mercy took 15 minutes through morning traffic that made me want to ram every car going too slow. Orville drove. Good thing, too, because my hands still weren't steady enough for fine motor control. We parked in the garage, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, waited in a corridor that smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee from a vending machine that probably hadn't been cleaned since the 90s. Tessa came around the corner with Brian. My daughter looked smaller than I remembered. Her arm was in a cast from wrist to elbow, white and clean and wrong. She saw me and her face crumpled. Dad, I hugged her, carefully. She flinched when the automatic doors opened behind us, jumped at every sound. A nurse pushing a cart. Someone's phone ringing. Each noise made her whole body tense like she was expecting something to hit her. The doctor was maybe 40, tired eyes. The expression of someone who'd seen this exact situation too many times. She held the x-ray up to the light, pointed to the fracture line with her pen tip. Clean break, radius bone, but see the spiral pattern? My jaw clenched. Orville heard my teeth grind from across the room. Someone grabbed her arm and twisted, hard. This wasn't accidental. I know. She looked at me for a long moment. Legally, I should file. Please, give me 48 hours. Mr. Hawkins, 48 hours. Then you can file whatever you need to file. She studied my face. Whatever she saw there made her nod once. 48 hours, not a minute more. In the hallway, Tessa wouldn't look at me. Just stared at the floor tiles like they held answers. When did he start asking for money? March, I think. Said he had this business opportunity. You remember, Dad, The silence stretched out like taffy. The 5,000. You gave it to help me, to help us. I thought... Her voice broke. What business opportunity? Expanding the gym, new equipment. He showed me paperwork and everything. There was no expansion. She started crying. The kind of crying that comes from your chest, not your eyes. I'm so stupid. No, I'm stupid. I should have checked. And I should have. Military training taught me to trust teammates, but Randall wasn't a teammate. He was just some guy who seemed normal enough. Well-groomed, had a job, polite when we met for dinner twice. I'd trusted the surface. Given him $5,000 without asking a single hard question. That money probably funded his gambling debts, maybe even gave him enough confidence to escalate his control over Tessa. My phone buzzed. Ivy, I answered this time. How bad is it? Broken arm, clean break, she'll heal. And the bastard who did it? Being handled? Dad, don't do anything that lands you in jail. I won't. That's not a promise. It's the best you're getting. I hung up before she could argue. We ended up at Orville's dive shop at 11. The back room smelled like neoprene and salt water, walls covered in old certifications and photos from dives going back 30 years. Orville had a whiteboard from when he used to teach classes. He drew tactical diagrams, crossed them out, started over. Eric opened and closed his old Marine Corps Zippo lighter, click snap, while thinking. Brian reorganized medical supplies in the corner, his way of processing anger. Simple approach. Orville drew a stick figure. 5 of us, 1 of him. We go over there, have a conversation he won't forget. No. Why not? He'd understand physical consequences. Because then it's assault. Because Tessa would know. Because guys like Randall don't learn from getting beat up. They get angrier. I leaned against the wall, the whiteboard marker in Orville's hand, squeaking as he wrote and erased. We take everything. Job, money, reputation, friends. We make it so he has nothing left to threaten anyone with. Brian's quiet voice cut through the room. That takes time. I have time. I'm retired. Eric clicked his lighter one more time, then pocketed it. What about his sister, the lawyer? What about her? She called you for a reason. Either she knows something or she's fishing. He pulled up something on his laptop, turned it around. Tracy Holland, defense attorney, downtown office, handles mostly DUIs and drug cases. Nothing major. She's covering for him. Maybe, or she's trying to keep him from doing something worse. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Yeah? Mr. Hawkins, this is Tracy Holland. I'm Randall's sister and his attorney. The dive shop went silent. Eric and Orville exchanged glances. Brian stopped moving. We need to talk. I know you're planning something. I know you have friends helping you. And I'm telling you right now, back off or I'll file harassment charges so fast. Your brother broke my daughter's arm. Pause. Long enough that I could hear her breathing. I know, but what you're planning to do won't fix that. It'll only... I hung up, stared at the phone like it might bite me. Orville spoke first. How does she know already? I looked up at 3 faces waiting for an answer I didn't have. Because Randall's not as stupid as I thought. The pacing started around 9:45. Kitchen to living room to kitchen. Back and forth until I'd memorized every creak in the floorboards. My phone sat on the coffee table. I picked it up, set it down. Picked it up again. Typed a message to Orville, going to Iron Paradise, be back soon. Then deleted it before sending. Typed another, can't sleep. Going for a drive, deleted that too. The car keys hung on the hook by the door. I grabbed them, paused with my hand on the doorknob, put them back, grabbed them again. This time, I didn't pause. The drive to Ingram Street took 12 minutes. I ran a yellow light turning left. Didn't care. Iron Paradise sat in a strip mall between a nail salon and a pizza place. Big windows showing rows of treadmills and weight racks. Randall's black Dodge Challenger was parked near the back entrance. I knew because Eric had sent me photos of every vehicle registered to him. I parked 3 spots down and waited. Knuckles white on the steering wheel. The gym's lights went off section by section, starting at 9:55, staff leaving through the front. Then the back door opened and Randall walked out, gym bag over his shoulder, scrolling through his phone. My hand reached for the door handle before my brain caught up. I was moving across the parking lot, footsteps too loud on asphalt, before I'd decided to move. You Randall? He stopped, turned, looked me up and down. Yeah? Do I know you? I'm Tessa's father. His expression changed. Something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe calculation. Oh, the old Navy guy. You broke her arm. Is that what she said? He shifted the gym bag to his other shoulder. She fell, clumsy. I swung, put everything into it. Every hour of not sleeping, every image of Tessa crying, every second of watching her flinch at sounds. The punch was wild, angry, no technique. just desperation wearing my skin. He moved faster than I expected. Younger, trained, gym manager who worked out 6 days a week versus 68-year-old dive instructor who'd been sitting behind a desk for 3 years. The math worked itself out in under 10 seconds. Asphalt scraped my palms when I went down. My phone skittered away across the parking lot, screen lighting up with each bounce. The impact drove air from my lungs, ribs screaming in a way that meant something had cracked. Randall stood over me, barely breathing hard. "Jesus, old man, what did you think would happen?" I tried to get up. My ribs had other ideas. "Stay down and tell your daughter. She talks to anyone at all. Her and you both are done. Got it? You'll what? You're 60-something, bleeding in a parking lot. I'm 34 and train 6 days a week. Do the math." For a second, just a flash, his hands were shaking. His face showed something like regret or fear or both. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something else. Then his jaw set and the mask slid back into place. He walked to his car, got in, sat there for 30 seconds with his head down and hands gripping the steering wheel. Then he revved the engine loud, that performative aggression of someone trying to convince themselves they're in control, and sped away. I lay there watching his taillights disappear. Didn't try to get up for a full minute. The parking lot was empty except for me and the dumpster I'd landed near. Appropriate. My phone rang from somewhere to my left. I crawled over to it. Orville's name on the screen. "Yeah. Where are you?" "Iron Paradise." "Dex, tell me you didn't..." Silence seemed like the best answer. "Christ, did you at least..." He put me down in under 10 seconds. Long pause. I could hear him thinking through the phone, running scenarios, calculating damage. "Are you hurt?" "Ribs." "Can you drive?" "Yeah." "Then get home. We're coming over." "Orville, just get home." The drive back took longer than the drive there. Every pothole was a knife in my side. Every turn made me want to throw up. I pulled into my driveway at 11:15, sat in the car for 5 minutes, trying to breathe shallow enough that it didn't hurt, gave up, and went inside. They arrived one by one over the next 15 minutes, door opening, closing, opening again. Eric first, then Brian with his medical kit, finally Orville. Nobody said hello. They just looked at me standing by the window with one hand pressed to my side. Brian's examination was clinical, gentle hands checking, prodding, each touch precise. His face stayed professional, but I could see the disappointment underneath. 2 cracked ribs, you'll live. On the plus side, they're only cracked, not broken. On the negative side, you're 68 and got beat up by a gym manager. Want me to check your pride too? That's definitely broken. Eric paced the living room. What the hell were you thinking? I wasn't. That's the problem. Orville sat down heavily on my couch. You taught us, Dex, remember? In Basra, when Miller wanted to go after those insurgents alone, you stopped him, said emotion gets you killed. I remember. Then what? She's my daughter. The words came out louder than I meant, echoed off the walls. Nobody spoke for a minute. Brian's quiet voice cut through. Miller got killed anyway, 3 months later, because he didn't listen. I know. I did know. Remembered his funeral, his wife crying, his kids who'd never see him again. All because he'd let anger override training. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I showed it to the group. Old man, stay away from me and Tessa, or next time I won't be gentle. Eric leaned in to read it. He's threatening both of you now. Orville studied the message. But look at it. No punctuation. Lower case. Sent at 10:47. So he's rattled. Confident guys don't send threats. They just act. No punctuation, no capitals. Either he's scared or he's 12, possibly both. Brian nodded slowly. Orville's right. He's scared. I didn't scare him. I showed him I'm coming. Eric stopped pacing. Exactly. Now he'll make mistakes trying to protect himself. Orville stood up, walked to my whiteboard that I kept for dive class planning, picked up a marker. Okay, new strategy. He knows you're after him. We use that. How? Paranoid people do stupid things. They lash out, make noise, draw attention. Eric nodded. We give him something to be paranoid about. What about Dex? Brian gestured at me. He's not exactly in fighting shape. Week of rest minimum, 2 broken ribs. I can... No, you can't. You'll sit this phase out. We'll handle it. I started to argue. Orville cut me off with a look. Dex, you screwed up. Now let us fix it. 23 years I knew him in the Navy, Orville said a few minutes later. Never saw you lose a fight. Retire for 3 years, and suddenly you're the star of Old Man Gets Destroyed in Parking Lot. Thanks for the recap. We sat in silence for a while, planning. Eric on his laptop, Brian cleaning up his medical supplies, Orville drawing new diagrams, and me sitting there with broken ribs and broken pride, watching my team work the problem I'd created. The dive shop phone rang at 1:47. Everyone froze. Orville picked up. Barrett's dive shop, we're closed. His face changed. He covered the mouthpiece, looked at me. It's Tessa. She says Randall just showed up at her friend's apartment. He's outside right now, pounding on the door. Eric had his keys out before Orville finished talking. Brian grabbed his medical kit. Orville spoke into the phone. Tessa, stay inside. Lock everything. We're coming. I tried to stand. My ribs screamed. Orville's hand landed on my shoulder, pushed me back down. Not rough, just firm. You're staying here. We've got this. Orville, you had your turn. You lost. Now it's our turn. They were gone in seconds. Door slamming, engine starting, taillights disappearing down my street. I stood alone in my living room with my phone in my hand, Tessa's terrified voice still echoing from Orville's call. Sat down slowly, each breath fire in my chest. Pulled up the photo of Tessa from my fridge, the smiling one from Ocean Beach. Then opened my text thread with her, typed, "We're coming." My ribs hurt less on Thursday afternoon, which meant the tape Brian wrapped around my chest was doing its job, or I'd gotten used to breathing shallow. Either way, I could move without wanting to pass out. So, we got back to work. Eric had set up shop in his garage, 3 monitors on a folding table, cables snaking everywhere like electronic ivy. His fingers danced across keyboards, windows cascading open faster than I could track them. Okay, here we go. Tuesday, June 17th, 9:47 p.m. Security footage from Iron Paradise played on the center screen. Black and white, grainy but clear enough. Randall at the cash register after closing, alone in the gym. His left hand moved, casual, practiced, sliding bills from the drawer into his pocket, while his right hand sorted receipts. How much? Brian leaned in closer. I counted 14 instances over 2 weeks. Conservative estimate, $250 per time. Call it $3,000. I watched the footage loop. How long has he been doing this? Based on the gym's cash flow discrepancies, at least 8 months. Orville crossed his arms. So, we're looking at 30,000 in theft. At minimum. Eric opened another window. Here's where it gets interesting. He posts gym selfies every 4 hours. Either he's dedicated to fitness or incredibly insecure. Instagram says insecure. The plan came together over coffee that tasted like motor oil. Orville took the IRS angle. His friend Danny, former Navy finance officer, who'd ended up in accounting somehow. I took the creditor pressure. Eric kept digging for more ammunition. Brian organized everything like he used to organize medical supplies before a deployment. Methodical, thorough, nothing forgotten. Orville met Danny at a coffee shop downtown Friday morning. I waited in the van across the street, watching through binoculars as Orville slid a manila folder across the table. Danny opened it, scanned the first page, closed it. They talked for 10 minutes. Danny left with the folder. Orville walked back to the van. He'll file it Monday. Anonymous IRS whistleblower report. Completely untraceable. He asked questions. 1. What did the guy do? Orville buckled his seatbelt. I told him. And he said he'd have it filed by Monday. Tuesday afternoon, I made a call from a burner phone, standing in a parking lot overlooking the harbor, where the wind carried the sound away. Held a handkerchief over the speaker, old trick from before everyone had voice recognition as software. Yeah? The voice on the other end was gravel and amusement. Background noise, music, voices, the ambient sound of a bar or club. Mr. Bordeaux, I have information about money you're owed. Who is this? Concerned citizen. Your associate, Eric Dusty? He's got a client who owes $47,000. Guy's been dodging him. Pause. I could hear him thinking, calculating. And? Name's Randall Stewart. Works at Iron Paradise Gym on Ingram. Drives a black Challenger. Why you telling me this? Let's say I don't like people who don't pay their debts. Another pause. Longer. Then Tommy Bordeaux laughed, low and dangerous. I like you, concerned citizen. I hung up, stood there holding the burner phone, watching seagulls fight over someone's dropped French fries. Well, that's disturbing, I thought. Guy likes me. Eric intercepted text messages between Randall and Dusty over the next few days. The beauty of having a former security specialist on your team. He knew which walls had holes. WTF, man? Why is Tommy calling me? You've been dodging me for 6 weeks, what you expect. The exchange went downhill from there. Randall claiming he was working on it. Dusty not caring. The messages getting shorter, more desperate, until finally Randall stopped responding for 3 hours before sending, I need more time. Dusty's reply, tell Tommy, not me. Wednesday, a package arrived at Iron Paradise. We watched from Orville's van across the street. Eric, Orville, and me, 3 guys drinking convenience store coffee that somehow tasted worse than mine. The gym owner signed for it, carried it inside. Through the front windows, we could see him walk to the back office. 2 hours later, the office light was still on. Silhouettes moving back and forth. Animated conversation. Orville checked his watch every few minutes. Brian showed up with sandwiches none of us ate. Thursday afternoon, exactly 1 week after I'd gotten my ribs cracked in this same parking lot, we sat at the outdoor cafe across the street. The irony wasn't lost on me. Randall came out at 4:30 carrying a banker's box. His face was red even from a distance. He dropped the box, papers scattered, he kicked it, left half the contents on the asphalt, threw the rest in his Challenger's trunk. Orville raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. Phase 1 complete. No job, debts growing, creditors closing in. I sipped my coffee. Beautiful. Should we help him pick those up? Orville nodded at the papers blowing across the parking lot. I'm retired, bad back. Right, me too. Suddenly very bad back. Randall got in his car, sat there for 30 seconds with his head down, gripping the steering wheel. Through the cafe window, I watched his shoulders shake. Crying or rage, couldn't tell. Then he straightened, wiped his face, revved the engine unnecessarily loud, the performance of someone trying to project strength they didn't feel, and fishtailed out of the lot. Brian had joined us at some point. That's what desperation looks like. I didn't respond. Something flickered across my chest that wasn't the rib pain. Didn't examine it too closely. My phone buzzed. Text from Tessa. Dad, Randall's texting me. Says he lost his job, needs help. He's sorry about everything. Another buzz. He says people are after him. Says he's scared. Orville read over my shoulder. She's not responding, right? I typed back. Don't answer him. Forward me the messages. Brian leaned in. He's reaching out to her because he's desperate. No money, no job, creditors closing in. He's looking for someone to save him, I finished. Someone he can manipulate. My phone buzzed again. Tessa sent screenshots. Randall's messages started apologetic, escalated to desperate, then ended with, Your dad did this, didn't he? Tell him to call them off, or I'm going to the police about him attacking me. I showed the screen to the team. Orville's face hardened. There it is, the threat. Eric closed his laptop. What now? I stood, dropped cash on the table for the coffee. Now we make sure he has too many problems to worry about us. Friday morning, Ivy's face filled my laptop screen from 3,000 miles away. Boston apartment behind her, bookshelves, and a window showing gray sky. She typed while talking, reading aloud. Okay, how's this? As a concerned resident of Pacific Palms Apartments, I feel compelled to report. Too formal. HOAs get those letters from busybodies all the time. Right. She deleted, started over. I'm writing because I'm worried about safety in our building. Better. What worried you? Parties at all hours, loud music. Last week I smelled marijuana in the hallway. Did you? Dad, I'm in Boston. I'm making this up. Right, but make it specific. Thursday nights, 11 p.m., Unit 412. She looked at me through the screen. You're scary good at this. I had a career in explosives. Details matter. She finished the letter, signed it, Mrs. Johnson, 3rd floor. Printed it. Mailed it from a post office near her apartment that afternoon. Brian came over Saturday with his laptop. Set it up on my kitchen table next to the coffee maker that was working overtime. Username, Truth in Lifting. Bio. Been in the game 15 years. Seen too many guys get screwed by fake gear. Better than your first attempt, Eric said from the couch where he was monitoring 6 different feeds. What was the first attempt? I asked. Brian didn't look up. Beefy McMuscleface. Actually, yes, Eric muttered. We should have gone with that. The forum was one of those bodybuilding communities where everyone knew everyone else's business. Randall posted there regularly. Workout routines, supplement recommendations, the occasional gym selfie that got more attention than it deserved. Brian spent 2 days building credibility, posted generic advice, responded to threads, became part of the furniture. Then he dropped his bomb in an existing thread about reliable suppliers. Can't say for sure, but I've heard his sources aren't reliable. No 2 guys who got bunk product through him. By Sunday evening, the thread had 47 comments. Randall's name mentioned 16 times. His Instagram getting hammered with questions. Is this true? Are you a scammer? Someone said you got fired for stealing? Monday morning, my phone vibrated while I was making a sandwich. Couldn't seem to finish making sandwiches these days without interruption. Tessa's message, Dad. Randall keeps texting, says he's sorry, says his life is falling apart. She'd forwarded screenshots. Randall's messages started apologetic. I know I messed up. Then desperate. I lost my job. My apartment is fining me. Then raw. I don't know what's happening. Everything's falling apart at once. I'm scared. That last line stopped me. The bread knife sat on the counter, mayo jar open, sandwich half assembled. I'm scared. No bravado, no threats, just admission. I typed, don't respond to him. He sounds really desperate. That's the point. Desperate people are dangerous. Block his number. Did you do this to him? The typing indicator appeared and disappeared 3 times before I settled on. I'm handling the situation. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Team meeting at Orville's dive shop that afternoon. Late sun slanting through dusty windows, turning everything golden and old. Orville wiped the whiteboard clean, started fresh, then paused with the eraser midair. HOA sent him an official warning. 3 strikes policy. He's on strike 2. Brian nodded. Forum's blown up. His username's attached to 24 threads now, all negative. Eric scrolled through his phone. His Instagram's getting hammered too. Comments asking if he's a scammer. Silence settled over the shop. The kind that felt like a question nobody wanted to ask. So, maybe that's enough? Orville set the eraser down. Job gone, creditors after him, reputation destroyed. He's got nothing left to threaten anyone with. I looked at the photo of Tessa on my phone, her arm in that cast. Maybe. I don't know. Is it enough? Brian's quiet voice cut through. What would be enough? I didn't have an answer. Eric did. He's trying to manipulate Tessa. That's what abusers do when they're desperate. I know. But? Orville was watching my face too closely. But nothing. We keep going. The phone rang, the old landline on Orville's desk that nobody ever called because who uses landlines anymore? We all looked at it like it might explode. Orville picked up. Barrett's dive shop. Is Dexter Hawkins there? Who's asking? My name is Tracy Holland. I'm an attorney, and I need to speak with Mr. Hawkins about my brother. Orville covered the mouthpiece, looked at me. Woman, says she's Randall's sister, lawyer. I took the phone. This is Dex Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins, I know what you're doing to Randall. I know you have friends helping you. And I'm telling you right now, stop or I'll file harassment charges so fast. Your brother broke my daughter's arm and threatened to kill her. Pause. Long enough to hear her breathing shift. I know he hurt her, and I'm sorry, but what you're doing won't fix. I hung up, set the phone back in its cradle. We stood there in the golden light, nobody moving. That's going to be a problem, Orville said finally. How does she know already? Eric shrugged. Randall told her? Maybe he's figured out it's not coincidence? Or he's just paranoid and blamed everyone, including us. Brian packed his laptop. Either way, we've got a lawyer paying attention now. Then we move faster. Eric's laptop chimed before anyone could respond. He read the screen, looked up. Guys, Randall just posted on Facebook. Public post. He turned the laptop around. The post read, To whoever is systematically destroying my life, I know what you're doing. I know it's coordinated. I've hired an attorney, and I have evidence about the old man who attacked me in the parking lot. 2 can play this game. Posted 3 minutes ago. Already 17 comments. Orville read them aloud. What's happening? You okay? Who attacked you? Call me. The comments multiplied as we watched. 23, 31, 42. He just told everyone he's under attack, Brian said. Eric closed the laptop. And that he was attacked. That's assault charges if he pushes it. They all looked at me. The golden light made everything feel surreal, like we were in a movie about someone else's life. My ribs ached. Tessa's last text sat unanswered on my phone. Randall's desperate "I'm scared" echoed in my head next to his threat about going to the police. My jaw set. Then we end this before he can file anything. How fast can we move to phase 3? Tracy Holland requested the meeting at a coffee shop on Garnet Avenue, neutral territory, morning crowd for witnesses. Smart. I agreed because I was curious and because I had alibis for everything that mattered. She arrived exactly on time, dressed like she had court later. Navy suit, leather briefcase, the armor of someone who needed the formality to feel in control. Slid into the chair across from me without asking. Mr. Hawkins, thank you for meeting me. You said it was important. It is. I know what you're doing to my brother. I sipped my coffee. Stale. Everything at this place tasted stale. And what am I doing? Don't play games. The job loss, the HOA complaints, the online harassment. It's coordinated. You and your Navy friends. That's quite an accusation. Can you prove any of it? She pulled a folder from her briefcase, slid it across the table. I didn't open it, just looked at her. I have a private investigator's report. Photos of you and your associates near Randall's apartment, his gym, his public places. We're allowed to exist in public places. Her jaw tightened. She reached into the folder, pulled out a photo. Not of us, of Tessa, her arm in that cast. This doesn't justify destroying someone's entire life. My coffee cup rattled when I set it down. The saucer cracked under the pressure. He broke her arm. I know he did, and I'm not. He threatened to kill her. The coffee shop went silent. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Barista paused with the steam wand. Every head turned. I didn't care. Couldn't care. The image of that cast, the memory of Tessa's voice on the phone that night, it all compressed into this moment, sitting across from a woman, defending the bastard who'd hurt my daughter. Tracy's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I know. I told him he needs help. Therapy, anger management. He refused. So you're defending him? I'm trying to stop this before it goes further. What you're doing, it's justice. It's revenge, and revenge has consequences. For everyone. She stood to leave, gathered her briefcase. At the door, she turned back. Something flickered across her face. Conflict, maybe doubt. One more thing. Randall has a client from the gym, Judge Morrison, District Court. They're friends. The judge will protect him if this goes legal. She left before I could respond. I sat there with my cracked saucer and cold coffee, trying to figure out why she'd tell me that. Threat? Warning? Some kind of trap? That evening, a motorcycle pulled up outside my house. Harley, loud enough to wake the neighborhood. Nothing says subtle criminal like a Harley at 8 p.m. in a residential neighborhood. I watched through the window, hand on my phone, decided not to call the team, wanted to hear this myself. Eric Dusty stood on my porch, still wearing his helmet when I opened the door. Took it off, tucked it under his arm. Marine Corps tattoo visible on his forearm. Same one Brian had. Same one half the guys I served with had. Made it worse somehow. How'd you find my address? Please, I'm in the information business. You, Dexter Hawkins, 20 years Navy EOD, retired 2022. Daughter Tessa, she's the one Stuart hurt. What do you want? You to back off. We moved to the garage without discussion. Safer than inside. He stayed near the door, maintaining his exit route. I stayed near the workbench, territorial, old instincts. You're making my life complicated. I loan money, people pay me back, simple business. But you got Tommy Bordeaux involved. Now he's breathing down my neck about Stuart's debt. Not my problem. It is if I make it your problem. I know people. You can what? You think I'm scared of a dishonorably discharged Marine who deals drugs? His face hardened. Careful, old man. Silence stretched between us. My hand was on a wrench, his hand near his pocket. Two men who'd both been trained for violence, calculating who'd win this time. You knew Stewart beats women. He looked away. Yeah, and you loaned him money anyway. I don't do background checks on character. Money's money. So you don't care that he broke my daughter's arm? Didn't say that. Said I don't care in my business dealings. What people do in their personal lives isn't your concern. Got it. You're a real humanitarian. I'm a businessman. You're a criminal. He shrugged. Tomato, tomato. That's the same word twice. You get my point. A smile without warmth. Unfortunately, yes. I loosened my grip on the wrench. An idea forming. Dangerous. Probably stupid. But everything about this had been dangerous and stupid from the start. What if I told you I could help you get your money back? All 47,000. I'm listening. Stewart's got an inheritance coming from an uncle, 50 grand. He never mentioned that. Because he doesn't want you taking it. But I know about it, and I can make sure you're there when it comes through. Why would you help me? Because if you get paid, you stop caring about Stewart. And if Stewart has no money, he has no power. He studied me for a long moment. You're lying about the inheritance. Maybe, maybe not. What do you care as long as you get paid? What's your angle? My angle is my daughter sleeps better when the man who hurt her has nothing left. He left without another word. I stood in the garage, staring at the space where he'd been for 20 minutes. Orville called. Had a visitor, Eric Dusty, the marine dealer. What? Why didn't you call us? Wanted to hear what he had to say. And we might be able to use him. Dex, he's a criminal. So? Long pause. So we're not criminals. We're also not stopping. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared 3 times. Then, meeting tomorrow, everyone. This is getting out of hand. I didn't argue, couldn't argue, because he was right. It was getting out of hand. I just didn't know how to stop it anymore. My phone rang while I was still standing there. Tessa. I almost didn't answer, then did. Dad, I need to tell you something. Her voice sounded strange, frightened but determined, like she was forcing herself to say words she didn't want to speak. Randall called me today. Not texting, he called. Said he knows you're behind everything. Said he's going to the police about you attacking him in the parking lot. Said he has witnesses who saw your car there that night. My blood ran cold. What witnesses? I don't know. Maybe someone from the gym? Dad, he also said, if you don't back off, he'll press charges. Full charges, assault, harassment, stalking, everything. Silence. The garage felt too small suddenly, too dark. Dad, are you there? I looked at my hands. They were shaking again, just like that first night. Full circle. Yeah, I'm here. What are you going to do? I didn't answer, couldn't answer, because for the first time since this started, I didn't know. Monday morning, I practiced in the bathroom mirror, 20 years defusing bombs. Now I'm rehearsing how to drop papers convincingly. Mom would be so proud. The coffee shop encounter was staged, but had to look accidental. I timed it for 10:30, ordered my drink, pulled out my wallet. The bank statement fell from it. Perfect trajectory, landed face up on the table. Dusty walked in at 10:32. Not a coincidence. I'd texted him the location an hour before, knowing he'd show up to pressure me about the inheritance. Hawkins, funny meeting you here. Small neighborhood. Sure it is. He sat without invitation. You think about my offer? Still thinking? The barista called my order. I stood, grabbed my coffee, came back, pulled out my wallet to leave a tip. The statement fell again, this time for real because my hands weren't as steady as they needed to be. Here, you dropped... Dusty picked it up. His eyes widened. That said R. Stewart Family Trust, 50 grand? I snatched it back. Thanks. The hell it isn't. Stewart owes me money and he's got 50K sitting. That's not his account. It's a family trust for his niece's college or something. But his name's on it. Trust beneficiary. He can't touch it unless... I stopped myself, like I'd said too much. Unless what? Nothing. Forget it. Unless what, Hawkins? I sighed, performance of reluctance. Unless the trustee releases it, his aunt in Pasadena, but she'd never... 50,000? He was already calculating, greed written across his face like neon. Don't even think about it. That money's protected. He smiled. Everything's negotiable. By Wednesday, the trap was working. Dusty had confronted Randall about the hidden money. Randall denied it. Dusty didn't believe him. Their relationship, already strained, started fracturing. But we'd gotten sloppy, comfortable. Eric spotted the private investigator first. Tuesday afternoon, white sedan, telephoto lens. We'd been careful after that, but too late. Tracy had her evidence. Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Through the window, unmarked car, 2 people in business casual, detectives. My hand went to my phone, stopped. Calling the team would look suspicious. Detective Morris was maybe 50, tired eyes, wedding ring. She turned constantly while talking. Her partner, Chen, younger, took notes on everything. They sat at my kitchen table like we were having coffee. Mr. Stewart filed a complaint alleging harassment and stalking. Stalking? I haven't seen him since... I stopped. Since when? Since Tessa broke up with him. He says you assaulted him in a parking lot June 19th. Long pause. My knee bounced under the table. Couldn't stop it. I don't recall that. You don't recall assaulting someone? I don't recall being in any parking lot on June 19th. Where were you that evening? Teaching a dive class. I run night sessions Mondays and Thursdays. Can anyone verify that? 8 students. I have their contact information. The interview went on for 40 minutes. They asked about Orville, Eric, Brian, asked about surveillance activities, asked about coordinated harassment. I kept my answers short. Dive classes, poker games, old Navy buddies who meet up regularly. We prefer elderly gentlemen with too much time on our hands, I said when they called us associates. Chen wrote that down. Noted. They called Orville, put him on speaker. He was perfect, checked his calendar, the one he'd been documenting since this started, confirmed every date, every alibi, his voice casual, helpful, the tone of someone with nothing to hide. You photograph your calendar? Chen asked. I'm 71. If I don't document it, it didn't happen. Ask my doctor. After they left, I poured bourbon, sat with it, didn't drink. Just needed something in my hands that wasn't my phone or a photo of Tessa or the weight of what we'd done. Emergency meeting at Orville's dive shop that evening. Everyone grim. Police visit changes things, Eric said. We need to move fast or abort. Brian leaned against the wall. Abort might be smart. We've accomplished enough. He's broke, reputation destroyed, no job. He's still walking around free. He's not a threat anymore. No money, no influence. He threatened Tessa again yesterday. Silence. Orville stopped drawing on the whiteboard. Eric looked up from his laptop. Brian straightened. What did he say? That if I don't back off, he'll make sure she regrets ever talking. My phone buzzed. Tessa's name. I read the message, didn't show anyone. Set the phone face down on the table. What is it? Brian asked. Nothing. Dex, it's nothing. What's the plan for the final phase? After Eric and Brian left, Orville stayed. Cleaned up coffee cups, straightened chairs, the busy work people do when they're working up to saying something difficult. What did Tessa say? I looked at him. Of course he knew. 23 years serving together meant we could read each other's silences. She wants me to stop. Long pause. The dive shop felt enormous in the quiet. Maybe you should. After everything we've done? Because of everything we've done. Dex, look at yourself. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. When's the last time you taught a real dive class instead of using it as an alibi? I didn't answer because I couldn't. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since I'd done the job I loved instead of weaponizing it for cover stories. This started with protecting her. Now she's asking you to stop. Maybe that's the answer. Or maybe she's too traumatized to see she needs this. Or maybe you need this more than she does. I looked at him sharply. What's that supposed to mean? I'm just saying, who are you doing this for anymore? I drove home, sat in my garage with Tessa's text on my phone. Dad, please stop whatever you're doing. I know it's you. Randall knows it's you. This isn't helping me. It's making everything worse. I can't sleep. I can't focus at work. I just want this to be over. Please, I'm begging you. Stop. Read it 5 times. 10. Each time hoping the words would change into something I could accept. The bourbon bottle was in my hand, though I didn't remember getting it. Poured a glass, set it down. Picked up Tessa's photo from the fridge, the smiling one. Couldn't reconcile that smile with the fear in her message. My hands shook. Not anger this time. Exhaustion. Doubt. The reflection in the garage window showed a man I barely recognized. Orville's question echoed, "Who are you doing this for anymore?" 20 minutes passed, didn't move, phone in one hand, photo in the other. Almost called Orville to abort. Almost texted Tessa, "I'll stop." Did neither. Set the photo down carefully. Drank the bourbon in one swallow. Typed to Orville, "Tomorrow, we end it tomorrow." His response came immediately. "Are you sure?" I wasn't, but I typed, "Yes." My phone rang at 1:47 a.m., unknown number. I was still in the garage, had dozed off in the chair, surrounded by dive equipment that reminded me of who I used to be. "Hawkins, it's Dusty." Background noise, shouting, something breaking. "You need to hear this. I found Stewart. I've got him here. We're having a conversation about that 50 grand. Muffled sounds. Then Randall's voice, distant but audible. "There is no 50 grand. It's a setup." Dusty back on the phone. "You better get down here. Your fake trust fund's about to get someone hurt bad. Warehouse District, Pier 32. You got 20 minutes before I do something permanent." Click. Dead silence. I sat frozen. This wasn't the plan. The plan was controlled. Time to call police. Ensure arrests. This was chaos. I grabbed my keys, ran for my truck, and only when I was driving did I realize I hadn't called Orville, hadn't called anyone. I was driving into a warehouse confrontation alone, just like the parking lot, just like every mistake I'd made. My phone was in my hand, could still call, should call. The pier exit sign appeared. 20 seconds to decide. I didn't call. The phone sat in the cup holder while I drove. Orville's number one tap away. Should have called. Would have been the smart move. But smart had stopped mattering somewhere around the second week of this whole mess. The warehouse at Pier 32 was exactly where Dusty said. Industrial waterfront, smell of salt water and rust. Orange sunset, painting everything the color of old blood through broken windows. I parked 3 blocks away, walked the rest. My truck was too recognizable. Except when I got there, Orville's van was already parked behind a shipping container, Eric's sedan next to it, Brian's truck around the corner. They'd tracked my phone. Of course they had. Orville met me at the container entrance. "You really think we'd let you do this alone?" I wasn't. "Don't lie. You're terrible at it." He handed me an earpiece. "Audio's live. Camera's positioned. Brian's already in costume. We do this smart or we don't do it at all." Inside the container, monitors showed 3 angles of the warehouse interior. Eric sat with headphones, testing audio levels. Brian stood in the corner, applying makeup, gray beard, prosthetic nose, different posture entirely. 20 years since he'd done theater, he'd said earlier. Still remembers how to apply a prosthetic nose. Wishes he could remember where he put his car keys this morning. "How do I look?" Brian turned, and I barely recognized him. Terrifying, like a loan shark who'd break kneecaps for fun. Perfect. That's what I was going for. Remember? You're there to create chaos, not actually threaten anyone. Just let them turn on each other. And if it gets physical, then we call the police early. They're already staged 2 blocks away. Silence in the container, just breathing and the hum of equipment. Last chance to abort, Dex. I looked at the monitors. Empty warehouse, broken windows, rust. The perfect place for this to end. No, we finish this. Randall arrived first at 6:53. Paced nervously, checked his phone every 30 seconds, jumped at sounds from outside. Through the audio feed, we could hear him muttering, "This is stupid. This is so stupid. Why am I here?" Dusty's motorcycle roared up at 7:02. He walked in, confident, saw Randall, eyes narrowed. "Stewart, didn't think you'd show. I don't have your money." "That's not what I heard. Heard you got 50 grand sitting in a trust." "There is no trust. Someone lied to you." "Someone or you?" The door crashed open. Brian made his entrance. Slow walk, commanding presence. Eric played low atmospheric music through hidden speakers. The effect was theatrical, intimidating, perfect. "Dusty, Stewart, good, you're both here." "Mr. Bordeaux, I was just..." "Save it. You told me Stewart's good for 47,000, that he'd pay. Been 6 weeks. Randall's voice climbed. "I don't even know you. But you know Dusty. And Dusty knows me. And when Dusty's clients don't pay, that's my problem." In the container, we watched it unfold. Dusty insisting the bank statement was real. Tommy, Jewish Brian, revealing the account balance was 0. Randall's face when he realized. Dawning horror. Someone set this up. Someone wanted us here together. You think? Brian's voice dripped contempt. You're both idiots. Dusty, you're done. Stuart, you're worse than broke. You're a liability. Then Dusty turned on Randall. You knew the account was empty and you let me. I didn't know anything. The first punch landed. They crashed into metal shelving. Audio filled with grunts, impact sounds, something expensive breaking. Should I call it in now? Eric's hand hovered over his phone. Wait, let them wear each other out. Dex, someone's going to get seriously hurt. Another crash. Louder. Fine, call it in. Eric dialed, voice shaking slightly. Yeah, I want to report a fight in progress. Warehouse at Pier 32. Sounds violent. Also, might be drugs involved. I saw a motorcycle with saddlebags earlier. Very suspicious saddlebags. Orville looked at him. Suspicious saddlebags? Eric shrugged. They bought it. Police arrived in 4 minutes. We watched from 100 yards away through Orville's binoculars as officers separated them, searched vehicles, found the drugs Eric had planted in Dusty's bike, found the illegal gun Randall had brought for protection. Serial filed off, the officer's voice crackled over the radio frequency Eric was monitoring. That's a felony. They're both going in cuffs, Eric reported. We watched them get arrested, Dusty shouting about his rights, Randall silent, head down, defeated. Blue and red lights painting the scene, everything ending exactly as planned. It's over, Brian said, still wearing half his Tommy makeup. Yeah. You don't sound happy about it. I'm not unhappy. Orville looked at me. That's not the same thing. We ended up at a dive bar near the harbor, 4 beers on the table. Long silence. To justice? Orville raised his glass. Nobody followed. Come on. We did what we set out to do. Brian stared at his beer. Did we? We set out to protect Tessa. Instead, we orchestrated a drug bust. We neutralized 2 threats. Eric's voice was firm. Dusty's going away for years. Randall's facing felony charges. And Tessa? My phone rang. I walked outside to answer. Tessa. Dad, I heard. Randall was arrested. And that drug dealer too. How'd you hear? His sister called me. Tracy. She was crying. Said I ruined her brother's life. My chest tightened. She said you did? She knows it was you, but she said I'm the reason, because I told you. Her voice broke. Thank you for protecting me, for caring enough to do all this. Of course but Dad, it shouldn't have been like this. There should have been another way. There wasn't? You didn't look for one. Silence. The harbor water lapped against the pier. Maybe you're right. I'm going to therapy. Dr. Chen says I need to process the trauma, all of it, including this. Including what I did. Yeah. Long pause. I love you, Dad. But I'm angry at you too. Is that okay? My voice broke slightly. Yeah, that's okay. Back inside, I finished half my beer in one swallow. Orville asked how she was. Processing, I said. And you? I don't know what I am. Brian leaned forward. Human. You're human. We all are. We stopped 2 criminals tonight. Eric's voice carried certainty I didn't feel. However it happened, that's the result. But at what cost? Orville asked. Nobody answered. He raised his glass again. To being done. Whatever else it was, it's over. We drank this time. The beer tasted like victory should, but didn't. Yeah, I said. It's over. But my voice was hollow, and we all knew it. 2 months felt like 2 years. August heat-baked San Diego turned everything golden and exhausted. I read about Randall's sentencing on my phone over morning coffee. Probation, 2 years, illegal weapon possession. Set the phone down, no satisfaction, no anger, just emptiness. Tessa's assault case was separate, still proceeding. Her lawyer said Randall would plead guilty. Another headline I'd read, without feeling anything. The supermarket parking lot was the last place I expected to see him. I was loading groceries when I froze. Randall across the lot, pushing a shopping cart, looking gaunt in clothes that didn't fit right anymore. He saw me, hesitated, then walked over, took courage. I noted that. Mr. Hawkins, I turned, tensed without meaning to. Old reflexes. I wanted to apologize. Silence. Cars passing, shopping carts rattling, normal sounds in an abnormal moment. To Tessa, for what I did, I know sorry doesn't fix it, but you want me to tell her you're sorry? If you would, I understand if... Why tell me? Why not her directly? He looked down. Restraining order, I can't contact her. Right. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just let her know I realize what I did was wrong, that I'm getting help, anger management, therapy. I studied him. Gaunt face, cheap clothes, exhaustion etched into every line. This was what complete defeat looked like. You lost everything? Yeah. Good. He flinched but nodded. I deserved it. You did, but you also deserved a fair shake, not what I did. He looked up, confused. I surprised myself saying it, but it was true. Justice and revenge aren't the same thing. I'd learned that watching him get arrested, watching the hollow victory taste like ash. Write her a letter, a real one. I'll pass it along if she wants to read it. But Randall, stay away from her. Cross the street if you see her, change stores, whatever it takes. I will, I promise. Because if you don't, I know, and I will. Thank you for letting me say this. He turned to leave. Randall, he turned back. The therapy. Actually do it, not for her, for whoever's next. He nodded, walked away. I stood by my truck, groceries forgotten in the cart, watching him disappear into the parking lot. Felt nothing, not satisfaction, not pity, just void. At Tessa's apartment that afternoon, she showed me fabric samples. This collection is called Resilience, about women who survive. It's beautiful. Dr. Chen suggested art therapy. This is my version. She flexed her wrist carefully, cast off 2 weeks ago, still healing. Dad, I need to say something. Okay. Thank you for protecting me, for caring enough to do what you did. She held up her hand before I could speak. Let me finish, thank you. But you went too far. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you orchestrated his destruction like a military operation, which I guess makes sense given who you are, but it hurt you. It did. Watching you become someone I didn't recognize, someone capable of all that. I was protecting. I know what you were doing, and part of me is grateful. But part of me is scared of you now. The words hit harder than Randall's fist ever could. I would never hurt you. I know, that's not what I mean. I'm scared of what you're capable of, what you became. Long pause. Kitchen sounds from next door. Life continuing everywhere, except in this conversation. Me too. What? I'm scared of it too. What I became. Ivy flew in that weekend with her husband and kids. Family dinner at Tessa's place. Kids running around, normal chaos. I watched from the kitchen doorway, almost smiled. Normal felt foreign now. She seems good, Ivy said privately, helping me dry dishes. She's getting there. And you? I didn't answer, kept washing dishes, watching soap bubbles swirl down the drain. Dad, I'm not judging. If someone hurt my kids, I don't know what I'd do. Yes, you do. You'd do what I did. Maybe, but I'd regret it after. I do regret it, parts of it. Which parts? How far I went, how much I enjoyed parts of it, the planning, the execution, but not protecting her. Never that. The team met one last time at Orville's dive shop. 4 men, beers, sunset through dusty windows turning everything gold. Dusty got 3 years, Orville reported, eligible for parole in 18 months. Eric nodded. Randall's on probation. Tessa's assault case settles next month. Her lawyer says he'll plead guilty. And us? Brian asked. Silence. We go back to being retired guys who meet for beers, Orville said. That simple? Has to be. I set my beer down. This was the last one. Whatever comes next in our lives, no more operations. Agreed. Brian shifted in his chair. I'm too old for this anyway. My knees haven't forgiven me for that Tommy Bordeaux crouch. Light laughter. First real laughter in weeks. Orville raised his glass. To friendship, to justice, to the cost of both. We drank. And to being done, I added. Being done, they echoed. Long, comfortable silence. The kind only old friends can share. Dex, you okay? I don't know. Ask me in a year. Fair enough. That night, alone in my garage, I worked on the new diving bell, engraving tool scratching metal, repetitive, meditative sound. Operation Underwater Rock 2025 Victory with a price. Set the tool down, tested the bell's ring, clear, bright, inevitable, like consequence itself. Placed it on the shelf with the others. Each bell a memory, Navy missions, rescues, dangers survived. This one fit the collection perfectly, but something about it felt different, heavier. Not the metal, the meaning. My phone buzzed. Text from Tessa. Love you, Dad, even when I'm angry, especially then. Read it twice. Set the phone down carefully. Looked at the bells one more time. Row of polished brass catching moonlight through the window. The new bell still swinging slightly, ringing faintly in the darkness. That sound, clear, pure, inevitable. I turned off the light. The bell continued ringing in the closed garage, unheard, until finally it stopped. Silence. Darkness. Done. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.